Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Historical Commission meeting. It's November the 20th, and it's 6:30. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Okay, roll call. We're gonna start with
Joyce Roderick's present.
Rick Mancini.
Connie Sol, Kristen Cantara Oliveira,
Larry Dykes.
Patty Rigo.
and right now we are just missing Ruben Amaral. We do have a full board as of now. Okay, general business, approval of minutes.
I want to make a motion to change the date on the approval of minutes from 9/18/2018 to 9/16/18, just to correct, 18.
8/16.
It
It was October. I mean, it was August.
Oh, 8/16.
Yes.
Sorry.
So I have a motion to change the minutes to 8/16/18.
I second it.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now that we've changed the date on the minutes, oh, here's Ruben. Can I get, there's an agenda on that side if you want. Can
Sorry,
I?
late.
That's okay. Can I get an approval of the minutes?
A motion to approve?
Okay, motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. I'm just gonna give Ruben a chance to settle in for a second.
Ready to go.
All right, that was quick. Okay, correspondence. So I did receive a request for a letter of support from Little Theater. And we have given them a letter of support in the past. I know some of you got this already, but for the two new folks. So Little Theater they've put in an application for CPA funds, and they're looking to replace, repair, or restore the following. So they want to repair the fire barn exterior. They're looking to do some work on the tower roof, the original lobby doors, missing rainwater downspouts. They want to paint all the exterior wood areas and replace the outdated marquee with a new LED marquee. And on the building interior, they want to replace, restore known water leaks into the building, the costume room, storage floor, and update the HVAC and lighting on the second floor. And what they're looking for from us is just a letter of support for their CPA application, and we have done that in the past. So they are aware that because they're doing this under the historic preservation category, so they are aware it has to be Secretary of Interior standards. And so we just need to vote if we want to send them a letter of support.
I'll make a motion to send a letter of support.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. I will get that written up.
We're going to, excuse me, Kristen, we're going to get to review the changes or work that's going to be done.
That's going to go before the CPA.
Yeah, it's
But
See-
we'll get to review the materials and things that they're using.
we
So-
haven't in the past, but
Yeah, this is a letter of support.
No, I know what this
Typically,
is, but
yeah.
I'm just asking, they're going to be approaching us later.
we can request them to. We haven't done that in the past. But I think the way that the CPA is doing it is that the members of the CPA are all going to be taking one of the projects or a couple of the projects, and they're going to be overseeing them because in the past there were issues with that, and there wasn't any follow-up once the money was awarded. So now what's going to happen is it's going to be followed by somebody on the CPA, as far as to make sure, but.
For instance, the YMCA is
Mhm.
putting some lighting. We got to review that and make comments. They're gonna be replacing downspouts. Are they
Yeah.
gonna replace those with narrow aluminum downspouts, or, so that's all.
I'm not sure, well, the difference with the YMCA though is because the YMCA had received, tax credits, so they are under our purview. So,
And they weren't
Yeah.
applying for CPA. This is,
Strictly
I don't
CPA.
think,
Okay.
they might not even have all their information together yet,
yeah,
right? I don't know if do
they
or don't.
probably don't, because the applications don't have to be turned in until, January. So, I mean, we can always request it, but really all we're doing is just giving them a letter of support saying, you know, whether or not we support their project. And they do know that everything has to be Secretary of Interior standards because it's it's under the historic preservation category. So they're aware of that. We do make them aware of that at the CPA meetings and.
Mhm.
But I mean, feel free to reach out to them if you want and just,
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next, we have a request for a letter of support from the Preservation Society of Fall River. They also have a CPA application in for the Dr. Isaac Fisk House project. And the Dr. Fisk House was a property that they did receive CPA funds for in the past to actually purchase the property. And the Dr. Fisk House is on, it's a part of the Underground Railroad. So they're looking for more CPA funds. And I know Mr. Soul's not here. Did you? Alex, do you want to maybe? I know, sorry to put you on the spot, but.
Bringing it, I wouldn't say much more than last time. Do you want
He was over here, so.
Yeah, could I just have the agenda or the?
Yeah, and he doesn't
Oh.
have the letter, like, if you.
I don't have the letter from Jeff.
Switch one. Okay, yeah, so Alex Silva, 649 Alden Street. So yeah, there's two letters of support we're requesting for the Dr. Isaac Fisk House. The first one is to connect all the heating in the house to just have some cost savings for the efficiency of the heat. And then I'll wait for the second one, right?
No, this is on the Fisk House. The
Well,
second
did you
one
wanna
is,
go?
the second one is a completely different project. That's the one on the district guidelines.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that one is just to finish up the report for the guidelines for the historic district plan, just to move forward. If there's any other future districts that the city's gonna implement.
Okay, so what, for the new people, so what that's about is, there's a guideline book. When you have historic districts, you have certain guidelines to be followed. And when a person that's in the local historic district has a change that they want to make on their property, they actually go before the Historic District Commission. And there's certain guidelines that are expected to be followed in the district. So this book that they're trying to put together is a really comprehensive book that's done. There's a company that does this. It's a professional company, and they make this book geared toward Fall River specifically and the types of architecture that we have and sort of the guidelines that we set, and they work with the district commission to set the guidelines in the book, and then they put everything together. So the book is going to be used by not just in the district, but for anybody that wants to do any kind of changes to historic properties, renovations, things like that. Anybody in the city is going to be able to use this. It's going to be a resource that's going to be a great public resource. So the Preservation Society is also going before the CPA, and they're looking for funds for the book as well. So they're looking for funds both for the book and then to do some renovations under historic preservation on the Dr. Fisk House. So
So the renovation includes windows, right, historic windows?
Yeah, it's replacing some of the windows. A lot of it just ties into cutting down on costs and improving efficiency regarding the heating for the house. I believe most of the second and third floor apartments are under separate heating systems, and we're trying to just bring them all under one. So it's just singular control.
But the other thing too with that, and one of the things that I know Mr. Soul had said, is in bringing the heating system up, it also will alleviate the problem of some of the pipes freezing in the building, because if you have pipes freezing and then breaking, you can destroy the integrity of the building itself as well, and since it's a historic building, they're trying to avoid that, so. So these are, yeah, so they're two separate things, so we need to vote on both of them separately. So the first thing we need to vote on is to send a letter of support for the CPA application for the Dr. Fisk house to do some of the improvements to the house itself.
I motion to get that letter in motion.
Okay?
Second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries, so I will get that letter together. And so we also need to vote on the second application for the Preservation Society, which is for the historic
I'll make a
district.
motion to vote on, to send them a letter of support.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries, so I'll get those letters done. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you. Oh, you, Alex,
You
this
wanna
is, you
keep
can
it?
keep that.
Okay, thanks.
Because there's some in the back. Oh, wait a minute.
Is that yours?
That's the old agenda. So, the new agenda's in the back on the thing. Sorry. Okay, number 4, we did receive a request for a letter of support from Dave Jennings, who runs the Lafayette Durfee house on Cherry Street. And we have sent letters of support in the past because they're also looking for CPA funds. They've done so much in work in there. I don't know if anybody's had the chance. I know some of us have gone to see it, but to go in there and see the things that they've done with the CPA money that they've received, it's amazing. They had an open house recently, and they've done, it just looks incredible. The outside of it looks incredible. The inside, they've redone the chimneys, they've redone the hearth. They're doing, they're gonna start doing cooking demonstrations, and I think pretty much every weekend, they now have some public event going on there, so it really is amazing. And just, it's one of the true historic gems that we have in this city, because there's so much that they do, there's so much opportunity for education just for the general public. They have school groups come in, they have, like YMCA and Boys Club and things like that. There's so much opportunity. So in the past, we always have sent them a letter of support. So this time, what they're looking for is a letter. He said, the letter is needed for our next phase of funding. This phase will be for the structural repairs of the first floor of the house. Framing members will have to be removed and replaced, or at least repaired. Also, lally columns will have to be built and installed to help strengthen the floor. Another part of this phase is digging of drainage ditch and stone splash pads for the front of the house. So, again, they're just looking for.
I make a motion that we submit a letter of support.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries, so get that letter done as well.
The YMCA.
Okay. Oh, here it is. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is the YMCA. And what they're looking to do I know a couple of us, I had sent something around to everybody, and not everybody, I wasn't able to send it to you, but I'll give you a brief rundown. So the YMCA is looking to install some LED lighting on the front of the building. And what they would like to do, and I can pass this around to both of you. The basic idea is they're looking to put lights, like LED lights, on the front of the building. And so part of it would go above the ledge, and part of it would go below the ledge. And they did come and talk to a couple of us, but we couldn't vote because we didn't have enough people. We didn't have a quorum present to actually vote on this officially. So what they're looking for is our input, because the building itself has received federal state tax credits, so they are under our purview, so we do have some say as to that. And they did meet with the building inspector, and the building inspector did approve as far as the wattage of the lighting, that they said that was fine, because I know one of my concerns was that it was gonna be bright because of the way that they described it. It sounded like it was gonna be bright, but it actually is within the building department limits. And I know you had a couple of questions in Connie as well, so you can give your input as well so that they know what's going
My
on.
questions were prior, because I wasn't available for that meeting, I was in the country.
Oh, that's right, Ruben was here, but you weren't, okay. So they,
But
This-
mine was about the lumen value of the lighting, and Connie took care of that
Yes.
as well, so.
and the lumen is
Yes,
within
it is.
the city regulations.
Did they send us cut sheets for the sconces that they were
I
proposing?
don't think they have moved
They-
in that direction.
Yeah, they
yet.
haven't sent anything yet as far as that. So when we had met with them, what we recommended was, so we were fine with the lights that go above the ledge, because you weren't gonna see them, but we did have a problem with the one on the underneath, because you were gonna see them, and it was basically gonna be a track lighting, and what?
I was just gonna pass the track
Oh,
light.
yeah.
So they could see it.
Okay, so we'll do pass one way, and,
And I passed that too.
okay. Yeah, we'll pass 2 and 2.
There's some track lights.
So what our recommendation was that they put some, so we recommended that they put some sconce lighting on the front to light the bottom part, because the top part is gonna be up, and it's gonna uplight the building, and it really will look nice, and you won't see the light. But as far as going down, we recommended some historic-looking sconces on the front, and they were fine with that. They were actually open to that. So they were gonna, they're gonna look into that, and they're gonna get back to us. But as of now, I haven't heard back, and I don't believe they've moved forward on anything.
They also told
yeah.
us that the lights will go off when they close.
Yeah. So this is only gonna be during, if you wanna send it to
Business.
I have a question about this paragraph, that the lighting is below the maximum permitted by the city.
Mhm.
Yep.
Does that mean that they have to go through the planning board or a licensing board to get permission rather than?
Only if they went above.
Yeah.
So they're going to be
It's
below
below,
the
they
lumens?
went to the building department, they met with the building
They've already been
inspector. And yes, and he approved it, he said that it was within the limits and it wasn't above the limits, so the building inspector was fine with that. But the issue that we had was just the lights coming down the way that it looked, because it wouldn't have looked, sitting on top of the ledge is fine, because you won't see it, but below we were, so that's why we recommended some sconce lighting, historic sconces, and they were open to that, so. But we need to officially vote on how,
They did agree to just do the top and not the ones facing down.
So giving them this letter of support is like supporting the top and then possibly the sconces, not supporting, you know, like, just thinking about if we're gonna support this letter of support, like, you know,
Right,
say this,
it's
okay?
to say that,
Okay.
yeah, it's okay for you to put the uplighting
Perfect.
on the ledge.
And then to consider.
But not the
okay.
down, and that we request that they put some type of historic sconce lighting.
They were
That's what it
actually
is.
okay with just putting the
Yeah.
uplighting, and that's it for now. They have no plans on doing anything else until,
This is 5,000 K, which is Kelvin light, which is the color of the light, which means it's going to be very close to natural light. Then it said here, the lights also have dimming capabilities in the event that they become too bright. The lighting value, the amount of lumens, which is how bright is it going to be, is regulated at night. It has, a sign is of certain lumen value,
Right.
so you can read it in the
Yep.
daytime. In the evening, that has to dim automatically. Did they have automatic provisions? It says here,
They
the lights
would-
also have dimming capabilities in the event that they become too bright. So is this a manual? It should be automatically,
well, they were gonna be shut off when they close at 9:30.
yeah, but it's today at 5
Yeah.
o'clock.
No, what they said was that they went before the building department and that he approved the lumens that they are going to use. Because the lumens were within, what the city regulations are. So they know they can't go above
All right.
that number, so they did
I'm
clear
only
it with,
asking the
they did
question.
clear it with Glenn
All
first.
right, I'm asking
Yeah.
the question as they're talking about the Kelvin level, which is different. Okay, thank you. It's the same.
Well, he's got that letter.
Did you guys have any questions? Any other
I'll say
questions?
no, thank you.
Do you have any questions, Joyce? Do we want to just make a motion just to send them?
Yeah, I motion to send an approval letter for the uplighting, but not the downlighting, pending new cut sheets for those lights.
Mr. Dias?
Tony Dias, 86. So the Historical Commission is a regulatory agency. I don't see anywhere in Chapter 40, Section 8D that it says you approve lights, signs, finishes. So it's good that you're deliberating about it and making recommendations, but I don't see how the Historical Commission can approve or disapprove lighting or signs. If anything, the architect that worked on the YMCA is Mike Keane and his group. I would have YMCA contact them. They have their lighting consultants on board, have them offer recommendations that you all can look at and make comment on to vote on it. I just don't see where they're standing on it. That's the Historic District Commission, which is more in charge of materials.
It's not the district commission because the YMCA is not in the district.
I understand that. I'm just giving an example that there's a separate agency that would review what the look of things would look. I mean, the conversation is great, your recommendations would be great, but I don't see that there should be a vote. There's nothing in the Historical Commission ordinance says that you're going to vote on.
Well, the reason they came before is because they received tax credits twice.
Right, so they would have sent a notification letter to Mass Historical Commission, and the Mass Historical Commission would have sent you a letter basically indicating, can you review what they're doing and provide some comments? And then you would offer comments, and then Mass Historical Commission would make a final determination, but it wouldn't be a vote that you would have. That's just my
I did
opinion,
reach
but
out.
you can still vote on it.
I did reach out to the Mass Historic Commission regarding this, so I knew how we would proceed with it. And that's how we knew about the tax credits.
So in previous years, we've always made recommendations back to Mass Historical Commission, and they had the final say on those things. It's the Historical Commission never voted on it,
They were referring it back to us.
because you were never notified in the first place.
Oh, we were this time. Whatever they did in the past was in the past. This time they notified us.
Yeah. I'm just telling you, like, if I'm a property owner and the Historical Commission votes for a particular light fixture or signage on my building, I reference the ordinance that says that you don't have any standing on it. I will welcome your opinion, and I might follow it, or I might choose not to. It's,
But if
We
it's
wouldn't have
something,
approved it
if
if they
it's-
weren't gonna, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
No, it's okay.
If it's something that gets referred to us that has to do with Mass Historical Commission and the tax credits, then yes, we are gonna have a say on it.
but, so your answer would be that the property owner should find the Secretary of Interior Standards and look at those guidelines for what they should do. But considering that they had an architect who went through the historical tax credit process and have their own lighting consultants and engineers, they would be the right folks.
Whoever, the person that's doing it, the person that's in charge now is not the person that was doing this when they did the renovations prior, so.
But
And Michael Keane is no longer involved either. No. Because I had reached out to him as well.
So where were we?
Whether or not we're gonna provide them a letter so that they can go to the building inspector and get a permit.
So I had a
Ed
motion, a second, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. 6, Secotio Associates and Architect regarding the central fire station. So what they're looking to do, and I did send an email, they're looking to change, they're looking to remove some of the, my mind just went blank. Skylights. Skylights on the building. They are going to, they're gonna be renovating the roof. They're gonna be changing the roof. And so, they're looking for a letter from us. And they were supposed to come before us tonight, along with Mr. Gallagher, and they did not. They are not here. So,
I would recommend for them to come before us before we make a decision.
yes, that's, I think that it should be tabled if somebody wants to make a motion to do that, because I don't feel comfortable making any kind of decision until, because I have a lot of questions about this, so. Would anyone like
I make a motion to table it.
Table it.
And I'll second that motion.
to? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
can I ask a question? Are they doing the work with CPA Place?
I don't know. We don't know.
They,
That is the money that CPA approved for them to do the roof, including the skylights.
that's my understanding,
So they need to follow the Secretary of Interior standards.
right.
So the report that they were given with the existing, they should have shared it with all of you.
And they did not. But I did request them to come before us, and I said that we did have questions and we would require additional materials, and they're not here, so.
Are you familiar with the project?
Sorry?
Are you familiar with the project?
He is.
Yes, it's a CPA application that both Kristen and I are in, and, are they looking to modify how the skylights look?
No,
It
what
looks
they're
like they're
looking to
removal.
removing 12 out of the 13.
Removing them completely?
Yes.
So that wouldn't follow the Secretary of the Interior standards, which that was part of CPA and it was made very clear to them.
Right. But they're
So, I
not
mean,
here, and,
Obviously, those are original skylights and they're falling apart, so they would need to replace them with new and not to eliminate them completely.
right.
Agreed.
And they also had some other thoughts of things that they were going to do that I said, I don't think that's gonna work, but that's that's why I wanted them to come here, and so no one is here, so. What I'll do is I'll just let them know they need to, before we'll do anything, they need to come and see me for our next meeting.
I would refer them to CPA if they have any questions, because CPA is the one that approved that money for that roof. And then the CPA wants them, they would refer to you if they have questions.
Okay, so 7, I received a request from Gail Powers, and she's looking for a letter of support because she is also applying for CPA funds. And what she's looking to do is to have a historical marker be put at the Bowen Borden Cemetery on Purchase Street, which is it's a historic little cemetery. It's behind the church that's actually on Rock Street, and it's at the back of the church, and it's on Purchase Street. And she said the cemetery is not owned by the city, but it's owned by the descendants of the Bowen Borden family, and was to have been cared for by them. The church adjacent to it cares for it on occasion or contacts the city to help with its upkeep. And buried here is Abraham Bowen and his family. He was an active member of the Underground Railroad here in Fall River. The marker will identify this historic site and preserve the history of Fall River's involvement in the Underground Railroad. So she would like a letter of support from us, just stating that we support her project in trying to get funds from CPA.
That's great.
Good. I'll make a motion to support that.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. No, we have the last thing on there, so, 1 Weaver Street. So what they're looking to do down on Weaver Street, Star is looking to put up a facility, a detox facility. And at that site, there is still the smokestack from the mill that burnt down, and it is the only standing thing left of that historic mill. So we were concerned about that and the fact that we would like that to be preserved if they do receive permission to put up a building there. Because right now, that's part of their hurdle, is they need approval to do that. So I think that it would be a good idea to reach out to them in the case that they do get permission to build there, in trying to keep the smokestack as part of the building and build around it. So I guess.
If they don't get permission, like, who owns it? Who owns that smokestack? Who owns that land? Do they own it? Like, they own that
They
land?
do.
So,
They
so
own
if they
it,
don't
yeah.
get approval to build that facility, we don't know what they're gonna do with it. So this would be a good thing to approach them, just to ask for any future involvement on that site to preserve this.
Yes.
Okay.
For whatever it is that they're going to do, it would be good to
like,
at
state
least
the
let
intention.
them know
State the intention,
this
yeah.
is historic.
Okay.
And something that I had said, which would be kind of a good correlation for that, because the original mill was there. What they're looking to do is to put a detox center where they're helping people essentially to turn their lives around and build their lives new again. And with the mill that was there was destroyed by a fire, but there was still a small part of that mill that stood, and that was the smokestack. And I think the smokestack, if we were able to reach out to them, would be symbolic of the fact that even like what each person goes through under their care is you have somebody who probably feels that their life is being destroyed, and you still have that part of them, and it's building around it and making something new along with something old. So I just think that that would be a really, it would benefit them as well to have that, just as a symbolism, so. Something that I would say.
Who would preserve the smokestack? Does this come under the direction of the Preservation Society? Who would preserve the smokestack? City of Fall River?
No, it would be
belongs
them
to
because
them.
they own the property now.
Mhm.
That's why we would need to reach out to them and explain why we feel that it's important for them to preserve that part of history and even how that can tie in with what they're doing. So, but it's their property, it's their right not to preserve it if they don't want to.
No,
but
absolutely,
we
but
would-
weaving that
we
story
would
that
like
you
to.
said makes sense, and it makes sense to them from a lot of standpoints to, so I think giving them that and saying this is something that you could use to further your efforts, and you're right, whether they choose to do it or not is really.
Right. But it's just a matter of like, reaching out to them and saying this is part of the city's history, and it would be great if you could preserve it, and this would be one way that you could tie it in with what it is that you're attempting to do as well. So,
I'm in favor of that.
Do you want a motion to write a letter, or you just discussion?
we could, I mean, I don't think we necessarily need to, it's just, I just think as a, just as a
Do you have
human, we
input?
can reach out.
You raised your
So
hand.
just a point of information, last Thursday, the ZBA denied their appeal to build a drug detox facility. So as of right now, unless they appeal to the state superior court, they can't build any drug detox facility.
Right,
But they could knock it down.
But it- yeah.
They could clear up.
That's why I was asking you, because I know
So
that
that's
they
the
said
concern.
no, so I want to
Right.
know whatever they do, I think it is important that we let them know that there is historical significance there.
Right, and it doesn't mean that they won't go to the state, they still could,
But
if
they're gonna
it's,
lose.
Either way,
But
though,
the
if,
best thing is they sell the property.
But one has nothing to do with the other. They could go in tomorrow and take that
Mm.
stack down.
Oh, yeah.
So I believe you're correct.
Yeah.
Get that letter of request or
6 months.
informational letter and
they could give us notification and then they'd have 6 months and then they would knock it down, but they could. And they may feel that's what they want to do, so we want to prevent that. I do think maybe sending a letter to just, or reaching out to Miss
Nancy
Paul,
it creates food for thought.
yeah.
And their board could discuss that at a meeting and it just generates questions, answers,
Yeah.
insights.
Yes.
So a point of clarification, so they can request a letter, the 6-month demolition letter, but they still won't be granted the demolition because it's part of the building permit process, which the building department has indicated that they can't build the facility. So taking down the smokestack is part of the overall plan to provide additional parking for a drug detox facility. So they wouldn't be able to get a demolition permit to take the smokestack down.
So they won't be able to get a permit to take the smokestack down just because they want to take the smokestack down because it's on property that they own?
It would have to be a completely separate application, and an application that was says we no longer plan to
Right.
do a drug detox facility.
Right.
We plan on just,
No, that's
They
fine,
may
but
wanna
they
clear.
still may decide that they want to do that. So rather than wait until that happens, we want to be proactive. It's not that this has nothing to do specifically with building or not building. I mean, the smokestack would tie in really well if that's what they want to do and ultimately they go for that. It's a good idea, but they still can turn around and say, well, we want to take the smokestack down for whatever reason they decide to take it down. And rather than wait until then, we want to reach out to them, and that's all we're doing. Okay, any other?
Should we leave it just on the agenda or
No, send a letter or reach out.
Yeah.
I think
Okay, number 4, budget, expenditures, gifts, donations. We have none. As of yet, we have none.
Christmas is coming.
It is. It is, anybody wants to make a donation
Have
to
you been
the
good?
Historical Commission, we're happy. And open bank account, so Kerry Ash, our clerk, who is not here with us tonight, is working on that. And as of now, I have no update, but she is working on that, so when I have an update, I will let you know. Citizen input? Oh, how did we know?
It'll be fine. 3 minutes, right?
We have 3 minutes.
Tony Dias, 80
Timeless.
Hood Street. So, as all of you are aware, the city is doing a number of projects. And 2 of those projects happen to be listed on the Fall River Register. One of them is Cusco Square, which they completely redid. And the other one they're actually working on right now, which is the Eastern Avenue median. They're putting in the sewer system. So both of those projects are listed on the Fall River Register of Historical Structures. And as usual, the city hasn't notified you. And because it is listed on the Fall River Register, it would have came with a 6-month mandatory demolition delay. So they're in violation of that. So as a concerned citizen, I'm here hoping that you will send a letter to the building department and one to Mr. Terry Sullivan to let them know that they're in violation, and that the next time that they do work in the city, that they should reference the Fall River Register. And typically, the building inspector would go to those sites and basically ask them to stop work immediately. The Cusco Square, I think, is pretty much complete, other than a few punch list items. But the Eastern Avenue, it's well underway. They've torn it up. We know that Olmsted definitely had a plan. We got photographs of what it looked like. So it would be very important for Mrs. Terry Sullivan, at least for the Eastern Avenue one, to come before your board and tell you exactly what he plans to put back. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thoughts?
I know from just some of the, I mean, I lived in Fall River my whole life, but I moved out and I lived somewhere else in New York for 20 years. When I was reading a book one day about Mr. Olmsted, and I was shocked to learn that parks here in my hometown, these are things that were planned by him, and he's so incredible. I think these are things that people need to know about, and these are the nuggets that we need to protect and cherish. And a lot of times I think because people don't know about that, it's easy to bulldoze over things, like, oh, nobody cares, it's just the median. Like, I live in that area. This morning I was horribly inconvenienced, the whole 2 minutes out of my way, but at the same time, nobody there knows what's going on. You know how it is in this city, it's speculation, it's this and that. Why not just be forthcoming with what you're doing? Exactly because you're circumventing something that you don't want people to know about. So I'm always in favor of a letter or something, because I do think people need to learn that there's a process to things, and there's a reason there's a process to things. And these are things that we should be looking at, especially from a historical standpoint. I mean, that's a really cool thing that I learned, and I was really instantly proud about that, and I think other people might be interested in that as well.
I would ask if there's a standard operating procedure in the city of Fall River. Maybe that's naive to think that there would be an SOP in the departments before they move forward with demolition or reconstruction or whatever.
There is supposed to be. Supposed to be. It does not get followed.
Well, could we reference that? Is that in writing somewhere? Could, in that letter to Mr. Sullivan, maybe we could reference the fact that this is established?
So the structures and that, as Mr. Dias had referred to, the city does have a copy of that listing that we have. It's on the website, and it should be referred to every time a project comes forward. And I don't know where the process gets lost or broken.
Well, it seems that the process gets lost when it's a city project. When private individuals or companies go before the building department, he does send them to the historical commission and you know, we get notification that this is what they intend to do. But it seems that when it has anything to do with the city and what the city wants to do, we do not get notified. And that's the way that it's been for as long as I've been on here.
So where does that review take place? Is that the planning board, or before an actual project moves forward? I guess it's buildings, engineering, and planning that are the triangle there. It starts with them.
And this isn't a new thing, and it's not the first time that we have reached out to them and said, you are not following the process. And at this point, I'm not really sure what else we can do other than we can send them a letter, we can reiterate the process again.
I mean, we can't ever
But-
make somebody else or any other department do what they're supposed
No.
to do. That's really like on them, that unfortunately, really on them, that they should be doing their own jobs. But from a record keeping standpoint and from just making your voice heard, definitely it's like our due diligence, I would think, as what you were about to say, that we should at least have that, make it known.
Right.
People should know about it. Maybe other people know about it. Maybe they don't like it either, you know? But it's, I think things can, from just what I've seen in the couple years I've been back, people do things because people talk about it amongst themselves but don't make it known to other people. And it's
Right.
like, just convincing about it isn't gonna make anything different, you know? But I actually did not, that makes me a little sad about that whole Olmsted thing. I mean, it's just a median, but
Right.
yeah, it's a little sad.
But I know in the past, we've had issues, and I know Mr. Dias himself has reached out to different city
Fire.
entities, yes, well, reached out to different city
Yeah, yeah.
entities and to no avail.
I'm sure it's super discouraging. I mean, like, it's
It
very
is,
frustrating.
it is
Absolutely.
frustrating.
Kind of suggesting that it's part of the paperwork.
Yeah.
As paperwork is processed, somewhere in the paperwork, there is a paragraph or a checklist.
There is,
Some checks and balances.
there is with the building department.
Yeah, and that
But the
would-
city chooses not to. I don't know what else I can tell you.
Yeah, no,
It is
absolutely.
there, it is in writing.
Yes, Tony.
In your letter, you can say there's a $300 a day fine, and you can tell them as of today, the city of Fall River owes the historical commission this amount of money.
Oh, and that's how we get
You wanna
that,
send
but
them
budget
letters?
line number 4, we get something there. That's
Send
nice.
them to that department.
Yeah.
I mean, somewhere, somebody is doing quality control. Am I wrong? You know, when a document as big as the projects you're talking about
Right.
takes place, there's always quality control on the process.
That's
But-
what somebody's actually watching.
Yes.
Theory.
Yeah, that's too easy. But I would stand on that and try to keep reminding that this is the process that we have in place.
Well, even, I mean, I know myself personally, when they were building, when they were looking to build at St. Vincent's, and they were looking to build houses, I know that Mr. Dias and myself had gone to some of the planning board meetings, and he did, he sent letters, he talked about why we were opposed to that, because it was the site of the first settlement in the city, and there was even a letter from Mass Historical Commission saying that they were requesting that we get an archaeologist, a historical archaeologist, to do a survey of the land before anything was done on that land. And I myself contacted the city engineer, and he told me, well, it's not required, they requested it, so we're not doing it. That's what I was told personally. So I don't know how else to, you know. You raise great points, and this is what we've been dealing with for the past several years.
Yeah, and
There is
maybe-
definitely a
I'm just thinking
disconnect.
that maybe on the other end, which was the support received by the state of Massachusetts for that project, that the requirement might have been on that end, you know what I'm saying? If we couldn't generate it locally, then maybe the fact that funding was coming from the state would require the archaeologist. But that's water that's already passed, and I'm not gonna try to relive that.
Right.
But it's just something that needs to be reminded of, you know, constantly and taken seriously.
Mhm.
By the next mayor.
That same. I'm glad that we spoke about it though, because I do think
Yeah.
it's really good historically to know the frustrations and the challenges that you've been dealing with
We've been dealing
and
with
how
a
in the
lot of
best ways that we
frustrations.
can, the only ways that we can do what we do is,
Right.
and that's the only way we can work within what we're doing.
Right.
So, thank you for,
Absolutely. So, what would we, what do we wanna do? Do we wanna take a vote to, oh, actually, we can't. We can put it on the agenda, on the next agenda to take a vote.
Why don't you put the, I'll make a motion to put that on the agenda for the next meeting. This will give us a month to speak to various department heads, to, if
Okay.
nothing else, to enlighten them.
Okay, but I'll put it on the agenda that way. We can actually vote at the next meeting. So, thank you. Okay, any other citizen input? Okay, public hearings and determinations, we have none. Notice of intent to demolish structures, Pilgrim Mill at 847 Pleasant Street. That did expire September 20th, 2017. As of yet, it is still standing. We have heard nothing otherwise, and thankfully it is still standing. B, Immaculate Conception Church and properties at 15 Thomas Street. They did request, in the first place, they requested, they sent a intent to demolish the structure, which put an automatic 6-month demolition delay. And what they did 2 months ago was they sent a request, they sent a letter looking for the date that demolition delay is up, and it is in January of 2018. And at that time, again, when I sent the original letter, which I had sent to everybody on the board at the time, it did say that I would like the opportunity, that the Historical Commission would like the opportunity to speak with them about finding other alternatives to demolition for the church and for the property. And they did not respond at that time, and I did put that same request again in the letter that I sent to them when they asked when the demolition delay was up. And again, I have heard nothing back. And I did see that they went before the ZBA for approval of, I believe it was 8 lots, single-family homes, which was approved. So I am assuming they have no intention of reaching out to us, and I suspect that in January, that demolition is probably going to begin the day it expires. So, but anyway, as of now, it's still standing. I did get a letter for a demolition at 117 Ash Street, and that was not on the register. It's not a historic property. So I did send a letter saying that it's not on the register. And then I also received one for 206 Chicago Street. It was the detached garage, which also was not on the register. It is not a historic property at all. It was just a little garage. So I did send a letter saying that, yes, it's not on the register. So that was it for that. We have had no request for exemption. Advisory review, I know we have a lot on the agenda tonight, so some of this I'm gonna go over briefly because I have not had a chance to really, get too much into some of this, just because of other things going on, especially with CPA things. So nominations or revisions to the Fall River Register, right now, we don't have any. If anybody does have any properties that they think really should be on the register, please feel free to let us know, and we can send a letter out to the property owners, look into it, send a letter and put them on as we have done in the past. B, Oak Grove Cemetery and North Burial Ground Park/Cemetery Subcommittee update. I do have no update on that because right now we still have there's no cemetery subcommittee that I'm aware of for the park department. We still have no historical commission representative on the park board after they removed me from the park board and did not replace me with anybody. I know I didn't give Rick's name to Carrie, who was supposed to be sending that up to Jen Andrade to let her know that you were interested in being our representative, and have not heard anything back as of yet. I think it's still important. We need to have someone on the park board because
It's Sedalia now, right? Not Jen?
Jen is still the chief of staff.
Oh, okay, because the person I was dealing with was somebody else, so I just was wondering about
Yeah,
getting someone else.
but she, so Carrie, our clerk, works in City Hall,
Oh.
so she did make that recommendation, so, as of yet, nothing. Proposed Chapter 38 Historical Preservation Ordinance Revision Review. That's just something I need to reach out to the Ordinance Commission, because the mayor did say that he had sent that down to ordinance, but we have heard nothing, so that's just something we have to locate. Kennedy Park benches, letter to Mass Historical Commission. I have not had the chance to do that yet, or reach out to Nancy Smith regarding even the new benches and walkways at Ruggles Park. But we did talk about the benches and the walkways at Ruggles Park, and there isn't anything that they're changing, really. It's, we're just doing a little bit of revision, but there wasn't anything on there that we had seen that.
The walls are
we
in
had-
a real state of disrepair. The corners.
Yeah.
The walls are all falling apart, so that could use some rehab work.
But
And it wasn't in
it
that.
wasn't on the plans, though.
Not in that at all.
Yeah, so this was just specifically for the benches and
Yes,
the
and
walkways.
the walkways.
So again,
So Ruggles Park is an Olmsted Park,
Mhm.
and there's a preservation restriction on it. So the park board, before they installed these benches, was supposed to notify Mass Historical Commission. Mass Historical Commission would have referred to you. We have drawings, we have photographs of what those benches look like and what they have installed, is definitely not meeting what Olmsted had put out there.
right,
Just a point of information.
yeah. But that's what we need to try and figure out. But I just haven't had the chance to do that right now, so.
I think it's no different than the issue of Kennedy Park, where there's been a discussion with the Historical Commission and the Park Board about inappropriate style of benches.
And I believe we were waiting on a letter that they supposedly had received.
But the difference between the two parks was Kennedy Park was looking for CPA funds to do the work. This one, they had money, they went ahead and bought it and installed it.
Right.
So, therefore, they felt that they didn't need permission from you all.
But the fact that it's an Olmsted Park, the fact that it's on the register,
And the
And that's
preservation
why-
restriction makes it clear that they
Right.
have to notify Mass Historical Commission.
right.
And that's why a historic commission person needs to be sitting on the park board.
And again, we're still waiting. So. Welcome. Welcome to the fun house.
There's been that opening's been, you you haven't been on for like 6 months, no? It's been a while since you've had somebody on the park board?
Oh, it's been, I believe, I found out in December,
Okay.
and I received notification in January. So it's been just about a year that we've had somebody on the park board, so. Okay. F, Scenic Roads. I know
I haven't
that's.
gotten around to it.
Yeah, and that's, we're just, a lot of these things we have on here because it's stuff that we're working on. We don't always have updates on these things, but we keep them on the agenda because it's stuff that we are working on. So Larry is working on the Scenic Roads. And Mass Historical Commission Fall River Parks renovation project, again, that just kind of goes in with all of the things that we need to be working with the park board and, checking in with Mass Historical Commission to find out where we're at on things like that, so. That is also, we're still keeping that iron in the fire. Bank Street Armory, we have no update as of right now. We did, when Connie and I met with the mayor in June, he said that they had plans for the Bank Street Armory and they were gonna be working on that, but as of now, there's nothing that's going on that I'm aware of. The PowerPoint presentation for neighborhood groups. Again, so I know Rick and I were gonna be doing that, but it's been hard to kind of coordinate because Rick goes away for certain months of the year and now the holidays are coming up. But we do have a PowerPoint presentation. I will email that to both of you. And it's done so that we can go out to the different neighborhood groups and present who we are, what we do, and how we can benefit the community and why preservation is important, why the Historical Commission is important, and just to give them an idea of there's a difference between the Historical Commission, the Preservation Society, the Historical Society, the Historic District Commission, because I think people hear one, they think it's all the same thing, they get confused. So this is our way of doing that, but I'll send that to you.
When do you think it'll be ready to use?
It basically is ready now. It's just a matter of putting in the pictures, but I don't have pictures yet for your neighborhood. I have them for the Flint neighborhood. I know Alex had sent me some of his building and I have some. And then I also have some pretty much ready to go even for the South End neighborhood, but I know yours I still have to get some pictures for the Lower Highlands. So,
If I can be of any help, I work with PowerPoint all the time, so I'd be more than happy to help.
okay. Yeah, it's actually, we actually have the whole thing done. All we have to do, I have it, so all I have to do is just take the pictures and incorporate them in, so that's really, and then get to the neighborhood group, so it's just a matter of coordinating schedules, and then we'll have different teams going to the different groups, so.
That's awesome.
I'll work on the pictures, I know, it's just been it's been so crazy.
I'm only a phone call away.
Yeah, except when
An
you're
international
in
phone
Honduras
call,
or
apparently.
Vietnam or
Somewhere,
wherever.
yeah.
Okay, so his signs on historic properties, I know that was one of the things that you were working on, so, is that,
No, I was not.
I thought,
No,
yeah,
no.
What was it about?
you were gonna be looking into the regulations for signs on historic properties.
Oh, you mean, yes, okay, yes, okay, no.
I'm like, I know I'm not crazy
Oh,
here.
boy, okay, I'm sorry.
About this issue?
Yes, okay.
About this, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I
Okay.
do have some, next meeting I'll bring it, I do. have
Okay,
some.
no, that's fine, so,
I'm sorry.
we had,
Just-
so, we brought this up because there was, a store, a restaurant downtown that had come to us about putting up a sign. The building department had actually referred them to us because it was on a historic building, and something had come to us prior, and it was on another historic building. So, we were looking to see, what the city regulations are about signs on historic properties, and if there were things that we could do to actually sort of revamp some of those things, and that's.
And I have found a lot of the older buildings
Mhm.
and the different configurations of signage.
Yeah.
So I have those also.
Great.
I'll get them.
Yeah, so that was a discussion that we were having, and that, so we keep that on there. Okay, next, going on to new business, we have North Park feasibility study. And we have Mr. Dias who's going to talk to us about that. And just for future reference, our meetings are not always the same.
So the North End Neighborhood Association, I believe a year ago or a little bit longer, applied for CPA funds to get a existing condition report. It's not a feasibility study through CPA. And that existing condition study would basically outline every tree that might be historical, the condition of the concrete steps which are unsafe, and basically put together a report of how the park looks like today and how it differs from when Olmsted had planned it in 1910. They received the money for it, and somehow the park board felt that they were in charge of that money, and the park board decided that they'd like the Martha Lyons feasibility study or master plan that she did based on a 1957 study, of which that report is, I think, 16, 17 years old today. The North End neighborhood basically asked CPA to vote on it to make the historical commission be the one in charge of that existing conditions study. And the CPA board voted, and they referred it back to you all. I've had a conversation with the city administrator, Kathy Ann, and she has indicated that the way to proceed would be to have you contact Chris Gallagher directly and request that he put out a RFP. I believe that existing condition study is $44,000. Now, that study is really important to be completed in time to allow the North End neighborhood with its 2 current applications for CPA. So based on we're at the end of November, we're never going to get that report in time. So I think it's going to be more than likely that those 2 applications for North Park are not going to pass. But we will try to put a estimate together with the best information that we have. But we do hope that you do go through and get that existing conditions report. It's very important. It'll provide us with updated costs on how much it will be to remove those concrete bleachers, the ones at the baseball field, so that at the next go around, we can, if we don't pass CPA in the next round, we'll know exactly how much it would cost to replace. If we put in an application and it says that we believe it will cost $200,000 to remove it, and the price comes in at $300,000, obviously we'll be happy with the $200,000 and we'll try to raise the remainder of the money, or at least go back to CPA and see if we can get some additional money. But for you, I'm asking that you contact Chris Gallagher and request that he put an RFP. We would like that the landscape architect that's listed on that application is one of the folks that gets contacted. I know they're very interested in doing it, and I believe they had done the original master plan for Kennedy Park back in the 1980s. So they have a lot of Olmsted background.
Does, so Chris has all the information, Chris Gallagher has all this information, and
He has all the
knows-
information,
Okay.
and I can copy you, Kristen, and you can distribute
Okay.
the CPA application with
Okay.
what the work looked and what the application from the landscape architect was.
Okay. Yeah, I can contact him easy enough, but,
Yeah.
yeah, if you can just send me a copy so that I'll know what to,
And maybe it might be easier to contact Sandy Dennis, who is right there. She works for CPA, and she can do a lot of the work for you during the day, hopefully.
I can do that.
Any questions on the North Park existing conditions, not feasibility?
Sorry, yeah.
Because when it becomes
No, I
feasibility,
know, I
they
know.
think that you're changing the park. We're not looking to change the
Mhm.
park.
Yeah.
We're looking to get rid of the dangerous conditions that are there and basically know how it is today. So based on the fact that we know those steps are dangerous, maybe a recommendation to the building department that they fence it off. Especially the kids are going to be sledding down there. There's pieces of rebar sticking out of it. There's no handrails, there's no guardrails. It is super, super dangerous, and I am quite shocked that it hasn't been enclosed in a fence.
These are the big stairs, the
Bleachers?
the bleacher stairs, that's what you're talking about, right? Yeah.
Yeah. In our application, all we were looking to do is remove them completely and then just seed and have the grass grow back, and then sometime in the future, someone can come up with a plan of what actually to do there.
So are they using, when they have games, do people actually sit on those still?
Yep. Right next to the broken beer bottles and everything else that's on there. Yeah, it's totally unsafe, not accessible to the public at all.
All right, yeah, just send me that, and then I'll reach out to Chris next week.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Any other questions about that? Okay. So, B, we have merging the Historical Commission and the Historic District Commission. Now, this is something that was brought up, it was actually something that was a recommendation that was made at the last city council meeting by Steve Camara, and he referred that to the ordinance committee. And so the recommendation was to merge the Historical Commission and the Historic District Commission and have them work as one commission under the 40C ordinance, because the Historic District Commission can act as a historical commission. And there are a lot of other, I believe there's either 32 or 33 communities in Massachusetts that have the one commission that does act as both. And part of the problem has always been getting two commissions fully functioning and having enough members on two commissions, and part of that was we had been waiting. I know even the Historic District Commission is down, what, three? Three?
4 members total.
Yeah, there's 4 members total. It should be 7 members, and right now there's 4 members total. And we even had the same issue on our board up until
Today.
yesterday, yeah. So given that, and given that the two groups work so closely on the same issues, really, and the concerns are there, it seemed like the best thing to do would be to merge the two. And then at that time, so in doing that, one of the things that we would be looking to do, and this is something that the Preservation Society has also given us some direction on, is going for certified local government, which actually gives us the ability to apply for federal funds for things. And in order to do that, so there's certain requirements for members that are on the commission, that certain criteria that have to be met. But that's all something that we can talk about down the road. But right now, we just need to start the conversation of merging the two, because at some point, the ordinance committee is going to reach out to us and say, you know, we would like your input on this and how we want to go about it. So I will be putting this on the next agenda. And in the meantime, what I'd like everybody to do is to come up with thoughts that they have about things that we should be thinking about, or maybe things that they'd like to see stay the same, things that maybe should be changed, ideas for, you know, new ideas, anything like that. But we, you know, just get some input on that so we can get this conversation going, because it could be a few months, it could be 6 months, we don't really know how long the whole process is gonna take, but at least we wanna be ready for that, because it's been referred, so it's just a matter of time before it happens. And so, one of the things too is, so it's a 7-member commission, but there are other commissions that work like this, and they have 7 members, and they also have alternates, which is a good thing, because when you have people that can't make your meeting, you can actually have one of the alternates sit in, so you still have a full board. And that's something that we should do. And then somebody may drop out, somebody either can't make a meeting or just can't commit anymore, and they need to resign, and then you always have somebody there. So then we never have to go through the issues like we did last month of trying to have a meeting between both commissions and not being able to come up with 4 people between 2 commissions to do that. So,
Are there like clear pros and cons, like that, I don't know anything about this other commission, so I'm really need to do some research and like, you know, get up
well,
to speed.
the other commission's gonna meet right after this
Oh,
meeting,
wow.
so feel free to stay and
Okay.
listen, but there are pros and cons, I
Just
think.
curious if there, I mean, and I'm not saying
Yeah.
that's something we need to discuss here, but maybe since we're sharing information after that, maybe, or I could ask you, we could talk. I'm just curious as to, I would like to educate myself as to what other people like, who
Yeah.
know, who've been doing this for a while, like
Right.
what would be
No,
the,
absolutely.
what would be a con? Because it sounds pretty great so
Right.
far.
It
So.
does, but I mean,
I'm sure there's cons to
cons,
everything.
And I think, I mean, from my own personal thought, I think the pros outweigh
Yeah.
the cons at this point, but that's also a matter for discussion, because there may be things that other people think of that I'm not thinking of, and so I think we all need to really weigh in on this. We all need to have a say as to the direction of this, because it's something that's important for the city, and right now we have 2 commissions. When they're merged into one, then that is just sort of that much less pull that you have, because now you only have 1 commission doing the work of 2, whereas before you might have had another one to say, you know, the same thing as one is saying, and sometimes 2 gets a little further than 1, but, so again, you know, things to think
Just
about.
a point of clarification, I support the merger, and once the merger happens, I'll be resigning from the Historical District Commission, so it'll make it all easy for all of you to remain in place. That's all.
Okay, but even that, I mean, is in the future at some point, I mean, there's certain criteria that'll need to be met, so it's, again, something that we'll have to talk about and, you know, but. Any questions? Okay, so next time, come prepared to talk about it. Okay, C, damage to the former police station at 158 Bedford Street. I know that Mr. Silva had expressed some concerns to us about the fact that one of the columns on the former police station was damaged, and right now it's being held up by a plank of wood. So Connie did reach out to the administration, so if you wanna.
I did, I spoke with the chief of staff, Jenna Andrade. I told her what our concern was. She assured me that they were collecting funding from the person that caused the damage. However, what was the message delivered to me was that they have no intention of repairing it. She did state she would get clarification from the mayor and get back to me, and I haven't heard from her, so I don't know where it stands.
So they're gonna collect funds and appropriate it for something else.
Probably, possibly, don't know.
She elaborated a little bit, stating that they really have the mayor has exhausted all means of looking for developers, and that chances are they're going to ask for demolition. They're going to demolish them.
We don't really know what channels they've used to get developers to be, to reach out to developers. We're not really sure
I
how
did-
they've done that.
I did urge her to rethink the CPA to put a roof and protect it from its elements, to make it more marketable to a potential developer if the roof was done. Because it had, I know the mayor had gone before CPA and applied for emergency funding. I don't know what went wrong, but something didn't go right. So that's where it stands. I was pretty frustrated, actually, with that conversation.
Is it possible to get someone from the administrative side of the city to brief us at the next meeting?
We can invite them, for sure. I mean, we tried in the past, we can again.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's try to get a response from the administrative side of the city on what is going on with this.
Any update on what's going on would help. I have no idea. Last time I heard about the police station, it was up for sale, and
A vehicle smashed into the
Yeah.
front.
Yeah.
I know that, but what else is going on with that property? We would love to know. 'Cause I have no
We
idea.
don't know. And I don't, we really haven't known all along. The only way that we found anything out, or at least myself, is to read about it in the Herald
No,
News.
exactly.
And so as far as however they've marketed this building, how they're reaching out, I don't know, other than the fact that they've put something in the Herald News saying that they've, they're going to have, a walkthrough and for anybody that's interested, but I'm really not sure how they're marketing it. Would be nice to know. So definitely, I like Joyce's idea, so we can reach out to the administration and see if they will come to our next meeting. Or at least give us some kind of an update, even if they don't plan on coming to the meetings. Okay. Anything else? Okay, so the next topic, so I know a couple of people had wanted to discuss it, was St. Anne's Church and what is going on at the church. As far as this, I'm gonna turn this over to Connie. I'm not gonna be part of this discussion because I work for the diocese, so I really can't. So I'm gonna,
Actually, I think you can be part of the conversation, you just can't vote on something, and I don't think we're voting on anything with it.
no, but I think I really do need to refrain
Okay.
from commenting.
So does anyone have any information or anything you want to discuss regarding St. Anne's
Well,
clarification?
I made copies of today's Herald News article,
Mhm.
which I'll pass out.
Oh, I didn't even read.
And I just put a bracket on apparently what Bishop DeCunha is suggesting at this point, which is putting together a task force of community leaders. He says a lot in that interview, but he has opened the door to the suggestion that a task force of community leaders will look at alternative uses of St. Anne's Church. So I'm going to introduce that to the meeting tonight to suggest that we need to be part of that task force. I've made suggestions as an individual prior to my being sworn in tonight. I have made suggestions to Richard Alfonso, who is very active in St. Anne's Church preservation. I've also sent an email to Mr. Mark Dahlhoff, who is a consultant for the Diocese of Fall River. I got his name from the Herald News. So I followed up on that with some information that I sent to him and to Richard Alfonso on how the city of Woonsocket saved their St. Anne's Church and made that effort to an art and cultural center by working with the diocese and establishing a nonprofit organization to save their church. So I've gone that far, and I want the commission to know how far I've gone. I have information from St. Anne's and Woonsocket, and I've been sharing that with Mr. Dahlhoff, who told me in an email dated October 15th that he was going to forward that information to Bishop DeCunha. So it's very possible that the thinking that we have in today's Herald News is part of that thinking, that we could work in establishing a nonprofit. Yes, sir.
So the building will cease to be a religious building by the end of this month. So therefore, it will qualify for CPA funds.
Correct.
So it would be good if you are in that meeting, if the Archdiocese indicates a number that they would be willing to sell the building for. Then once you know what that number is, somebody should go before CPA, as long as they have a adaptive reuse for that building. It's never going to be a church again if we use CPA funds, but at least the building and the architecture will remain, instead of the building being demolished. What we haven't heard is how much do they want for the building. I know the article indicated, I think they were 600 or 800,000 in the red. Maybe that's the number.
Well, Woonsocket did it this way, at least the diocese that they worked with in Rhode Island. They came up with leasing the building from the diocese until that transition period took place, and then the transfer of ownership from the diocese to the nonprofit took place. So there was an interim period there of leasing from the diocese. I don't know any more than that, and how that works out, but that is the way they did it.
One of the things that I found about the Archdiocese is they're very concerned on how their churches are used after they let go of it. So it would be important for them to have a definite understanding of who's going to take possession of that building. So they wouldn't want to see the church obviously converted to a restaurant with a dance floor, which happened to one of their churches in Sandwich, Mass. So they are going to be somewhat selective of who they might lease or sell the building to. If the building is bought for CPA funds, it can also be sold. It could be sold for the exact same amount to pay off the bond or even more. So I think getting the building off of the Archdiocese hands would be the best thing for the preservation of the building. And the idea of it ever being a Roman Catholic church, that is gone. But there might be another church that could buy it. So I would like to know what that number that the Archdiocese would be willing to sell the building.
Well, I would just suggest that maybe the debt that has been identified as current might be the cost.
And that's something CPA can do. They would do a bond, a 30-year bond. So it's a number that is not crazy compared to the properties that we just bought near Copacut or the water department, and we bonded that.
It's 800, in the article it says it's 850,000.
So we could, that would be about $70,000-80,000 out of CPA. CPA, whoever that organization is, buys it from CPA or whoever, and it disappears within a year or two, but it's out of the Archdiocese hands.
But then what about the rectory? Because
They indicated
It's-
that was a separate,
no, I know, but it's very close to the church itself. I mean, how are they gonna?
so let's say everything's for $1 million. I mean, CPA was willing to spend 1.2, 1.3 on the St. Vincent's property for bonding to protect dirt. Here, we're protecting a landmark for the city, you know, but it would be good to have all of you spend some time coming up with a feasibility study of how the building could be adaptively reused. You know, could part of it be used for St. Anne's, and you could lease some of it to St. Anne's, where their existing chapel ceases to exist, and they moved that chapel over to St. Anne's. And now that existing space of St. Anne's, they can renovate it because their emergency department is on the water every time it rains. So you could lease the building to the hospital, many things you can do. Make it a library, lots of things. But you have to get it out of the Archdiocese hands, or else they're going to do demolition through neglect, which is what they do in all the other churches. They remove the stained glass, they put up plywood. Building department is not supposed to allow them to do that because the building is no longer able to hold the heat. But they've been doing it forever.
So what would the next step be, Mr. Dias? In terms of, I'm stopped at this point with the statement that the diocese will put together a task force. And I'm hoping that that task force will include experts in the historical area, as well as architects, business people.
My recommendation would be for this board to come up with an adaptive reuse idea for the building, present that to the Archdiocese and ask them how much would it cost to take the building from you so that we can follow through on this idea. Or, if it was a private person, they would have donated the building, and in donating the building, they would have gotten credits. But because the church is nonprofit, there's really no tax credits. But like the YMCA, they were able to figure different programs in the church which allowed the YMCA to get historical tax credits. So potentially part of the church could be used as a daycare or some other educational use. And in like that, getting those programs, now you're able to get historical tax credits that could be maybe shifted over to the Archdiocese, and it would make it work. Just an idea, but I think an adaptive reuse of the building, what functions could exist inside there that the Archdiocese wouldn't be opposed to. Daycare, library, those types of things, I don't think that they would have an issue. But they're still going to take maybe some of the saints, you know.
Yeah, and as I say, that discussion will take place
Right.
when this task force is assembled.
But I think from everything that I've read, it hasn't been clear with the groups that they're talking about saving the church, saving the church. To me, everything that I read, they're believing that there's going to be a Catholic mass in the building.
Correct.
And I think it should be all of you to make it clear to them that there's two separate things that's going on here. One, the Archdiocese had made it clear that they're not going to have a Catholic mass in the building. They're going to remove the priests that are there and any other holiness associated with it. That's that piece.
I think that's been made clear.
Well, everything that I've read, they're talking about going to the Vatican, and we're gonna get people there 24 hours to make sure that the buildings, that's all about them being able to worship. So it's almost like they need two separate task force. One is to see how you can have the building continue to be a church, and then the second task force is how can we get this building from the archdiocese and save it from being demolished?
But this task force that he's talking about, leaders in the community, it won't just be, well, hopefully, it wouldn't just be people who would want to save it for a church. There should be, and I think that's right.
Well, this says community, this says community.
Yeah, leaders in the community, so there are people in the community who don't.
Along the way, as other churches have had meetings along the way before closure.
Mhm.
This is, as I understand it, a task force after closure that would be assembled to discuss reuse of the property, reuse of the building.
So one of the things that I'd like to make clear that the archdiocese has done is they've hired an architect, and they asked that architect, how much would it cost to renovate this building as if it was brand new the day that they constructed it? And that architect went through the process and came up with a number of $13.5 million. What we currently have is a building department that has indicated that a little plaster on the wall has fallen out, and that is a safety hazard, and they've closed the building. That letter indicated that the archdiocese had the ability to file an appeal with the state for $150 and have somebody say, plaster falling from the wall is not structural, therefore the building doesn't need to be closed. That was never done. So obviously the archdiocese is looking to sway the public into seeing that there's this unsurmountable cost for this building that they want to get rid of. Because $150 application, getting the BBRS to say, no, there's no structural issue here, the building can go and open up as long as you remove all of the loose plaster. They can go into the building tomorrow. But they don't want to do that.
I understand as well that that is a factor, but the ongoing costs is operational costs that this church cannot come up with. And that figure was put into the Herald News by the finance office of the diocese, and the figure that came into the Herald News was $7,000 a week.
And I believe the bishop also confirmed that the sale of the school, the sale of other properties, which they received over $1 million, not one penny of that money went into the maintenance of the building.
Correct.
It went just to pay older debt that they had. And the bishop has indicated that each church is supported by itself. So he indicated that there were not enough French-speaking people in the city to have French mass in that French church. And 300 people wasn't going to be able to pay the bills. So they've indicated that they're closing a total of 3 churches, and they didn't even care to reorganize other churches and move into the cathedral. You know, so it's really disappointing, but at the same time, I could walk into any church today and say, there's not one exit sign anywhere, none of them are handicap accessible, none of them have the bathrooms, every single one of them would fail a building inspection today. You know, so there's so much involved here, but the reality is they want to get rid of the building. What I'm indicating to you is you have an opportunity to offer an adaptive reuse for the building and see how much they are willing to forego.
And really look at it as an architectural structure.
Yes, not a
only.
religious building. It could be religious for a Protestant religion, but CPA wouldn't allow that. Because if you use
CPA, and also your experience with Massachusetts Historical, additional funds from the state level, is that a possibility?
So if a private entity purchases the building and they plan on generating money from it, they will be afforded 30% historical tax rate. So 1/3 of their construction cost would come from the state. but the archdiocese needs to sell it to anybody.
I read what I am able to read, as I say, in the Herald and so forth, as my source of information. I would say that the diocese will not change their mind, and that the city and residents of the city need to come together and develop this landmark and this historic identity of our city and our culture on our own. We're on our own here, and we need to have support from the diocese at this point to understand where we are at and what the cost would be for the future of the city.
And I'll say the last thing that I'm going to indicate is that there is one way that we can prevent the building from being demolished. So we know that when the church closes this month, that they can't afford the demolition of the building. It's going to cost millions of dollars. So it's just going to sit there for a number of years. If property owners around the church are interested in making a 40C district, that church will be within a 40C district, and any attempt to demolish that would need to come before your historic district commission, or if you join your historical commission, of which you would have the opportunity to say no.
Now, is it not already a
It's on the
historic district in the
national
south
register.
end? Am I correct in that
It's not a
assumption?
local
No.
district, no.
It's not a 40C district.
The historic preservation planner in New Bedford said that we could actually make just the church a 40C district.
Yes and no, because the archdiocese will not agree to it. So you
don't
need
have the
at least
buy-in.
2 or 3 other properties right next to this, so that you can have 51% or 75% of the property owners who want to make a historical district. Now you take that and you go before the city council and you say you've created a report, you have 75% of the property owners that want to be in a 40C district. Now the city council would vote, they create a 40C district with the church property being within it.
Well, that's our role. Maybe that's part of our role, and that's part of what we can contribute to this discussion.
I'm just here to help.
Put that on your agenda.
So,
Tony,
Madam Chairman,
put that on your agenda.
Because we haven't merged.
I'm not looking to cause any problems.
No, put that on your agenda. No, I'm saying
No,
for
seriously.
the district.
on the district, tonight.
Oh, but wait a minute,
I have
we work,
full play.
the historical commission actually works as the study committee for, isn't that right? The 40C?
If this working
I mean-
group decides that that's something they want to pursue, that working group will come before here and ask the Historic District Commission to start that process.
No, I thought that the historical commission works as the study committee, and then it gets turned over to the district
So
commission.
I guess what I'm looking to do is, that committee that's looking to do whatever they need to do to save the building, they can do the homework of talking to the other property owners to see who would be willing to be in a 40C district, so that when they do come before the Historic District Commission, that process is much quicker because you already know who's for it. You just need to draw a map, put together a report, present it to the city council. City council votes it in, it's a done deal. I expect
It's a long process.
it would take 6 months to a
So
year.
that's a step that we can take.
It's a long process, and yeah, it is a step that you can take, and I would start immediately
It's a
with
long,
contacting the neighbors, and getting buy-in immediately.
Well, that's
Yeah.
Mr. Alfonso. That's
Yeah.
Mr. Alfonso. If he
It's-
is,
it's a long process, but it may be pushed because there's a lot of people in that neighborhood that don't want to see the church, so it actually may go quicker than you think. Like, because the last time when you were trying to create the 40C district, it was brand new, you had to really contact people and you had to let people know what was at stake, and it was just in their own neighborhood. This is, they're trying to save the
And it
church.
was
It
the
still
education.
takes time, though.
No, I
Because you
know,
have
I'm
to-
just
you
saying
have
it,
to
it
put
wouldn't
out
take
the-
10 years.
But there's a process to follow.
Yeah, no, I
There's
know.
Actually, we can share with you, I can send it to you electronically, how to develop the 40C, the steps that you have to take. And there is a process that you have to follow. And it might be quicker because the buy-in might be there. But
I'm
there's an
sure there
actual-
is, I'm sure there
And
is.
you already have an existing 40C.
An existing one, yes.
So you don't have to create a new committee.
That's correct.
There are other buildings in that block that I think would be immediately interested in a district, and I'm talking about the high school and of course the Dominican residents in back. Those are easily qualifying as,
Kennedy Park.
But even a lot-
The mayor
it
said that
is.
he would be willing to do whatever he can.
But even a
so
lot of the
Kennedy Park-
houses,
And to
the
bring,
tenement houses and
Yeah.
to
the.
bring something else up too, when we met with the mayor in June, he had a lot of interest in trying to save St. Anne's.
Yes.
So that may be another avenue as well.
I would approach the hospital first because they might not be your best advocate.
according to this newspaper article, the hospital is not involved
No,
in this.
but they might not want to be involved in the historic district because of the constant renovations and changes that they make.
And there will be a problem because they're on the corner and it can't be down the middle of a street.
Mm-mm.
Your border of a 40C cannot be down the middle of the street.
So St. Anne's Hospital
And they
would
got that
have
whole
to.
block.
However,
Plus, they got
you
the
don't
next
need
one.
their actual buy-in if you have everyone else around that does, you don't have to have 100% buy-in to go before the city council to get approval.
It's better to have them on board, but if
Yes.
not, there's still ways around it.
And this is a pretty hot potato, so they may,
What can be
Including that
more
whole-
hot than the position we're in?
no, I mean,
but-
that's
but
what
No,
I'm
I
saying.
know what you're saying, it's.
This is
and
good.
the-
I mean,
The
it-
time element and the.
What I'm saying is you have
This-
the
You might be in a
interest.
fight against Stewart.
Yeah, but
There is no alternative, you know, that's the situation that's presented to us, that we did not have any
but you might have public
cause to
support.
create.
But what I'm saying is that you have public support, where when we were creating the 40C, it was foreign, and we didn't have the support that we needed, and that's what I mean about it being a hot potato.
Right.
You have the support, so that's on your side. On us,
That's the group that is working this, as I say.
Yes.
I'll be glad to communicate that information to Mr. Alfonso and let him take it from there.
and if I don't get a chance to send it to you, if you go under the Mass Historic Commission, you'll see how to, the process, how to develop a 40C district, protected district.
Well, may I do that, Madam Chairman?
Absolutely.
I'll get that information out to him.
And it would be good too, at the next meeting, I'll put it on the agenda. And if there's anything that we would need to vote on, just let me know, and then I can put that on the agenda so that we can actually vote. But it would be good to invite him also, and some of the other people
See
from
where-
the
where-
community,
where-
just to see,
To
yeah.
see what's going on
Yeah,
there.
to have that discussion with them and just to,
Okay.
yeah, but I'll put that on the agenda. Okay. Okay, finally, open discussion. Is there anything else that anyone has to talk about? Okay. Our next scheduled meeting for the Historical Commission is Tuesday, December 18th at 6:30 in this room. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion.
I'll
A
second.
motion to what?
Adjourn.
And a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, everyone.
Has anybody ever said